Hello, everybody. Welcome to Brawlhalla Gaming. Focus is gaming, fun, and friends. I am joined by my fellow Brawlhalla member, Matthew. Say hi, Matt.
Hi.
And we have a guest today, Michael Jansen from our local. And he is smarter with atomic mass game stuff than we are, so I bring in the heavy hitters.
By a long shot, at least for me.
I just play too much. That's all I'll say.
There's no
There's
such
no
thing.
such
Never say
thing.
such thing as too much. So we're here to give our kind of reactions and recap to Minstravaganza from last week. Obviously, lots of things happen. We'll look at this from a competitive focus, but from a casual focus as well. We're definitely not the expertise totally on everything competitive. This is meant to be just fun and hopefully some information for some newer players that might be looking to get back or get into some of these games for the first time, or some players maybe who stepped away and would like to come back. Because Legion got a big update. I might call this the not 2.0 2.0 stream.
Before we get into it, do you want to explain to our viewers maybe what extravaganza is and such for anybody who's not familiar?
Yeah, sure. Minstravaganza is basically Atomic's Mass Games seminar. That is it's basically their Gen Con seminar, I would say, because they don't do a Gen Con seminar, I don't think.
And they do it every year, correct?
Yes. I think
And
this
it's
is year 7.
And it's
if I'm
sort of
not
a
mistaken.
roadmap then for them for the rest that lays
Yep.
out.
So
hey,
it's
this is
basically the
happening this
same.
year.
Yeah, it's exactly. It gives us the roadmap through 25. I think Q4, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to look at it, but yeah. So basically, it's their seminar over 3 days.
Jump into 2026, but otherwise it lays out pretty much the entirety of the rest of this year, and for most of the games, all of next year, and some of them a little further.
Wow.
And I would say, like, it's basically a 3-day seminar for them. So every day has a focused game between the 3 titles now, because X-Wing and Armada are no longer. So day 1 was Legion focused, but they also do like the roadmap for another game. Then they do some painting seminars and talk about they also had like a tactics card breakdown of why they do what they do. It's very informative. It's very engaging. They do it on Twitch and then they post it on YouTube. And there's a lot of information. So the excitement of what we get at Adepticon is basically multiplied by.
Oh wow. Okay.
So
as a casual AMG player, this is new to me. This whole thing. So
it's a lot of content. I mean they go from 9 a.m. Pacific time until basically 5 o'clock. Go most of the for 3 days. So I'd say it's one of the better ones that I've seen. They're really engaging with, which I think is a good thing. And it's fun, entertaining. They provide some good feedback and knowledge on their games.
And it's not all info dumpy too. They have streams throughout the weekend that are like hobby streams where they're painting some of the cool new stuff and chatting with all the people in the chat and kind of giving their insight from the designer's perspective in addition to the gaming side of it.
Wow. Well, that sounds great. Why don't we get into it?
So Legion is going to be the start. We had anticipated some changes coming. I don't think anybody fully had a grasp of how far they were going to go. I had a feeling that we were going to get some rule updates, but they're not calling it a 2.0, but Legion, this is a 2.0, in my opinion. It's a completely different. I'd say 50 to 60% a different my time, because most of the cards and but it's also not done. This is like I would call it like a phase 1, and they have more changes coming. So it's going to be a gradual rollout. So I guess that's why you could possibly not call it a 2, because it's not a full version change. By the end of it, it's probably going to be a 2.
Okay.
It sounds like, but from what I gathered when I watched stream.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as changes, so we're going to start with Legion. We'll get into MCP and Shatterpoint. There weren't as much stuff going on there from the game mechanics standpoint, and things like that. But we're going to touch base on Legion and try to briefly talk about the changes we find important and how that's going to affect the game, affect playing. I've personally, for me, I was Legion player for, I think I started 6 years ago, maybe.
I don't
pretty
remember.
hard.
I was just saying, I
It
don't
was
remember when we
pre-COVID.
got into it.
It was pre-COVID. I was when Matt and I got into it. We got in basically.
Mm-hmm. It was pretty much right when it came out that we got into it.
It wasn't too far after. It was definitely before Atomic Mass games.
And it was before the droids and clones came out.
Yeah, we may have actually been like shortly after year 1.
Yeah,
I feel like we're pretty. And I played pretty hard for 2 years, and then I just kind of fell out of love with the game. Various reasons. The biggest one for it took 2.5 hours. Personally, for me, that's I could. Once I started MCP, I figured out that I could play 2 MCP games in the time it took me. It sounded entertaining to me. I thought the meta swings were pretty high early on because out, so you got stuck playing. I'll touch on base on that when we talk about one unit I'm excited about later. Mm-hmm. Michael, how long have you been playing?
Yeah, so I got in probably about a year after it released. I think the Rogue One wave is where I jumped on. So I think spring of 2019. But for me, the difference between me and you guys especially is that Legion is my first war game. So it's kind of my first introduction into this hobby as a whole. So
okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's got a real sweet spot in my heart because that's where I started this whole. I spend too much money on plastic and spend too much time painting.
That just shows how old we are because we started wargaming when 1996.
Yeah. But
I wasn't born yet.
It's neat that you say that because I know when Legion. Yeah, I know that when Legion came out, that was something that Fantasy Flight Games at the time had talked about, was trying to get the non-war gamers interested in a game that is also a war game. So it's cool that actually drew you in the way that they had intended.
Yep, they got me. They got me good.
And I think just like any game, like it's kind of a victim of its success. People want new. They want new flavor, adding more keywords. The game gets more complex. And then by the time you get to that complexity, now things aren't synergizing the way you would. And it's just because there's so much. Infinity kind of got. Matt and I are big Infinity players and kind of got the same way with that game. And I think it's just kind of a natural progression of how these games happen because people want more.
You hear the term power creep, and that's, all war games end up with that to some extent.
Exactly.
But, So I think what drew us out of Legion at the time was how so many of the command cards were really shifting the game away from what it had started with. And I'm getting back to what the topic is. I'm pretty excited now to see some of these big changes just to see how it invigorates the game.
I played a local Jordan. I probably maybe the 3rd or 4th game. I started back up maybe 3. And I was red player. It hemmed in. It bombing run. I had already lost the game.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is essentially what happened.
Yep. And there's a couple of those that were still prevalent before this big change because the biggest issue is that the last kind of mission expansion we got for Legion was the Vital Assets pack that had like the hostage exchange and the bombing run. Mm-hmm. That came out in
a while ago.
It was like January or March of 2020. So that's 4 years with no mission change at all. So people found the ways to break them.
That actually brings me to one of my points that I was going to make. When they announced Shatterpoint, what was that, 2 years ago? Or 3
It's a
years
year
ago?
old. It's a little over a year old now.
When they announced that,
it 2 years ago, so it would have been Adepticon 2
I
years
know
ago.
that there was, and maybe it was just my feeling, but I know that it felt like from other people as well, that there was sort of a grumbling of, hey, AMG bought out Fantasy Flight Games. They took over Legion. They took over all these other games, and now they're bringing out a different Star Wars skirmish game. Is Legion going to die? Is Legion going away? And then, like you said, there wasn't any sort of support happening for it as far as new missions, things like that. And you really sort of got that feeling of, okay, yeah, we're still releasing units, but are we really going to keep going with this game? And one of the things for me that with this announcement that they did is the excitement of, yes, we are clearly going to keep doing this game. This is clearly going to be a focus for us. And these are the changes that were happening behind the scenes back then that you didn't know about that we can now tell you.
For 3 years. So, they've been working on this for 3 years, which is why we have had no mission packs for 3 years, which makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But it also tells me that they took the time into it.
Yeah.
They didn't rush this out. They took some thought and some time. Not everybody's going to be happy. It's like any game. You're going to love it. Some people hate it.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, it's Star Wars, and you're throwing dice and hopefully hanging out with at your local.
Yeah, Star Wars.
With that, all right, so we're going to go over some of the things, and Jansen and I have actually played one game. Jansen's played 2 or 3 now. I played 2. So we have at least a little bit of, we can put in a little bit of perspective, our initial thoughts. We did get rules wrong yesterday, but that's part of it. Mm-hmm. So the first thing that changed over everything else, the biggest change is the battle cards and how gameplay setup starts. Some old is still in, but a lot of new. Basically it is more interactive between both players, and I'm gonna let Michael explain it because he's literally a lot better at that stuff than I am. So let's roll.
Yeah, so basically the old mission set, we had, I think, 9 of each mission type. You had 9 deployments, 9 objectives, 9 conditions. And you would pick 4 of them with your list, and you'd kind of do this little crossing out game at the beginning before deployment based on red and blue player to determine your mission combination. All that's gone. Instead, we have 6 primary objectives, 6 secondary objectives, and 6 what are called advantages. And now instead of the old way, you're going to build kind of a battle deck of 3 of each. 3 primaries, 3 secondaries, 3 advantages. And the setup of the game is still has that kind of Star Wars Legion flavor where we lay out what the mission could be, but then we'd go back and forth adjusting what it looks like until we kind of land on the final mission. And in this instance, blue player can either pick to pull an objective from the primary deck or the secondary deck. Then red player pulls one of theirs from the opposite. So if I pull a primary, Matt will pull one of his secondaries. And then we'll both flip an advantage, which are similar to the old condition cards, where you've got like the options to put barricades out, the options for, it's almost like a minefield for armors. It's called ordnance. Mm-hmm. So once we have those cards out, we'll go back and forth, just like the old way, where blue player has a chance to modify, red player has a chance to modify, blue player one more time, red player one more time. And then that's your mission. The difference here, go ahead.
I was just, which is one of the huge things for a lot of players now that's going to help is that I know in the past, if you lost the bid process and the other player had a deck that just screws your army, your game is just lost. There was no point. And now because you're taking, hey, you're bringing your primaries, but I get my secondaries, you have a lot more ability as a player now to have something that is better for your own army versus
right.
And as a rebel player, man, that really is huge because you come into some of those games and not have the bid and somebody bring a deck that just was there was no point in putting your stuff on the table.
Yep.
It felt like.
Yeah, there were a lot of old missions that had that issue where, like, if you played hostage exchange against a lightsaber and you didn't have one, you were going to lose. If you played recover the supplies against someone with infiltrate, you were going to lose. If you played payload on hemmed in, you were going to lose if you were red. So those seem to be gone now, which is really cool. Until people, we'll give them 3 months, they'll break it again.
Yeah, every
what we're good
game
at.
Every game gets broken. Like
Right.
you could test it until the 9s. Somebody's gonna break it. Somebody will find a way.
Yeah. I think the really cool thing about this new system, though, is that I can replace your missions with my missions as part of my actions. So each player gets 2 ways to affect the mission. I can either replace your primary. I can replace the primary with one of mine. I can replace the secondary with one of mine. I can replace my advantage. I can force you to replace your advantage. Or I can be blue player and pick the board edge. And so you have 5 really impactful options that you can do to affect the mission setup. And it's very similar to the old way of doing things with a nice new twist.
Yeah.
And so the nice thing, so for example, yesterday, Jansen had ordnance on the board. I had an ATM. So I was at least able to force that out. Something a little bit more in my.
Well, that's cool.
But it also felt like because I forced that out, the other objectives, I was still good. I could still work my way around what the game style.
Right.
So that's what the initial feeling felt.
And Matt, you mentioned a bid, and I think one of my favorite changes is that the point level jumped from 800 to 1,000, which is awesome because I just get to bring more toys. And they removed the bid entirely. You are now just fill up to 1,000. Do it all the way. Because red and blue is determined by basically a flip of a coin. And I think that it's going to be a lot for people to digest.
Yeah.
But I also think it provides players to be more creative in list building. Because the bid process always felt backwards to me. Where why wouldn't I want to bring all of the cool upgrades and all the cool different heavy weapons and fill out my list? Because when I do that, I lose because someone else has a better mission deck. And they can just force me on the back foot before we even start.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
I think you're exactly right with that.
Yes.
I will say that as a not hardcore player, going up to 1,000 points means, and this is good for AMG. I got to buy more stuff. I don't.
The negative initially.
I barely had a 800 of droids to start with, and that was maxing out all my units. So, gonna have to buy some more droids, I guess. But yeah.
Anything else in the missions?
Yeah. Talk about how deployment changed in the missions, because that's kind of a big thing too now, right?
I hadn't put up the. And we won't go into like infiltrate and prepared positions yet. We're just going to talk about basic deployment right now. So I got the battle cards up. So we have shifting priorities, recover the reach, breakthrough, bunker assault, and close the pocket. So we'll just look at the basic one is probably shifting priorities. That's kind of the basic one that is there. And,
to me that feels like the, hey, I don't know what to put as my third card. I'm going to put this one in.
Exactly. So it's basically, since I've got the card up, I'll talk about it. The zones are somewhat similar. It's like modified versions of Battle Line. But now that this is your territory, which we'll get into a little bit more when we talk about prepared positions traits. But it's basically battle lines for the most part. There's, I think, the quadrants are similar to disarray. The L shape, I think, is similar to major offensive. Is that right?
The L is closest to advanced positions.
That's right, advanced positions. So most of it, you're always pretty much playing on the long side of the board. It's I think all of these from a depth perception are all range 1.5, and we'll most of you probably know that the half is basically a 3-inch range ruler that comes in the print to play, but also if you're an MCP player, it's also the range 2 ruler for MCP. So yeah, so that works out nicely, and Shatterpoint. So it's both the same thing. So if you have those games, you can use those rulers. And then the game is basically you have your objectives, your primary objectives, which are on the card. So for instance, Shifting Priorities has 5 objectives, and they are contestable up to a half range tool. So they are 2-inch, if I remember right, 2-inch bases. So essentially right now, from a primary perspective, it's mostly controlling these objectives very much in the secure fashion of MCP. Is that a good way to sum it, you think?
Yeah, it's also, I mean, it's the same way that Intercept the Transmissions played. It's the same way that Key Positions played in the old system. This is where you need to be there.
Yeah. Well, but I think I was talking more along the lines of you don't deploy in the box, correct?
You do. Correct. You don't start on the board.
Yeah.
Currently, you do not start on the board.
That's a big change because previously you deploy your stuff out on the board and then now we go. But now you're bringing stuff on when you activate.
Unless you have infiltrate and air position. Mm-hmm. Talk about when we get a morning. Start off the board, and basically turn 1 is your to come. It's actually very similar to a lot of war games. Mm-hmm. So basically, that's kind of how deployment works. We'll get into a little bit more of the more advanced stuff when we talk about the rule. As far as controlling objectives, probably the biggest change overall is that vehicles can control contested objectives, which is huge. I think we're going to see a lot of armor on the board now.
We already did, but we're going to see.
It's going to be wild.
More.
Like, I think, and which is kind of cool. Like, I've kind of been like, from a thematic standpoint, ATSTs are great. I get that. But then when you get to like the snow speeders and the fast stuff that creeps along, that always from like a visual mental thing, always just kind of was like, I get it, but it kind of sucks. Mm-hmm. But they can contest now, which is fantastic.
Yep.
We found that out yesterday in our game.
It lost me the game because I couldn't take his ATST down, and it stood in the middle and scored 2 points for the last 3 turns.
And Veers, I don't know if Veers before, but Veers can now move. I don't know if guidance is a new word on Veers.
It was a keyword unique to Yoda, and now it's all over the place.
Veers has it, so he can move his ATST, get up in there. So it was awesome.
It's really cool.
So that's probably the biggest change as far as area control. Everybody else, as long as your unit is within half, you're contesting the objective. If you have more than me, you contest it. If I have more than you, I contest it.
Yep. And pretty poor Omega in the Bad Batch got her keyword changed before she even came out. So Omega was a model that would let you interact with objectives from Omega's model instead of the unit leader model. And now instead she gives the Bad Batch the ability to score at full range 1, which is a really cool
I didn't see that errata. That's awesome. Good, because I just bought that box.
Another big change that I guess now would be a good time to talk about, because you were talking about turn 1 moving onto the board. 5 turns now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they changed that. Same thing with your complaint of games taking forever. You know, we increased the points level, yes, and that might bog things down, but there's a hard cap. It's 5 turns and game over.
And I mean, our game yesterday, our deployment was very slow, but we were also that'll pick up. I think it'll probably end up being faster. Like turn 0 is gonna be pretty quick because I don't think prepared positions is the only thing that turn 0 affects.
Prepared positions, and then there's another kind of variation of prepared positions, but I don't remember exactly what it's called off the top of my head.
Not my head either. All right, so we've got vehicles control. We have progressive scoring now, which in theory means that the game is scoring out faster. Jansen and I had a little conversation yesterday about, hey, do you think this is going to shorten the game? And we're on the fence on that. We still think it's probably going to be about a 2.5 hour game, but he brought up a very good point that most games now are probably actually going to finish, as opposing to stopping on turn 4 or going to points every time, which is no fun. Nobody wants to go to points. Our game happened to go to points yesterday because
we both played the objective the whole game.
Yeah, we both played the objectives, and I just happened to kill more stuff. And he did a really good job of keeping one of his VPs away from me. So there's little strategies to that. So yeah, the progressive scoring, I think it's going to get quick. I could see getting about 215. I think it's going to quicken up a little bit.
Yep, I think so too.
I think if anything, I think it's going to feel quicker.
Yes.
More than anything else.
Yep,
which is important to me.
Yeah, the changes to deployment in combination with the bigger deployment zones, in combination with the higher point totals, I think they all kind of balance each other out to where it's going to be a similar amount of time, but there's going to be more action.
So, just touch a little bit more on the point. So basically, we're up to 1,000 points. There has been a rebalance of points. I'll have to look at that. So from what I've seen right now,
they were doing those points rebalances every year. That's not something that was we weren't going to get.
What I found is 1,000 points is awesome because you have more. I finally got to play the Iden ATS Veers list I've always wanted to play, but couldn't make work and I finally got it to work. And it was super fun. I don't know why thematically I wanted to do it, but I did. We're going to see more, operatives and commanders together. We're going to see more force users, secondaries, big tanks. And oh, by the way, the other big change, which is got to hit the pocketbook, but really is cool, is double size of core units.
Oh, they're so cool.
So many dice. It just looks cool. It feels cool. You're just rolling massive pools of dice, and it's fun. I mean, like we played yesterday, and he's got a 10-man core. If you take like a heavy weapon, you've got a 10 to 11-man core. I've got a 10-man core. You're throwing black dice at me. I'm throwing white dice at you, and just felt good. And you should have shot me off the table somehow. Like and the save, just so many dice. I don't know. We like throwing dice. It just felt fun.
Yeah. And it's not an overload because you're not going to bring 6 double-sized core units and expect to win the game.
No.
So I think
I'm going to have to get more dice.
Yeah. Jason, you brought 2 double-sized core units?
I brought 2.
I also brought
had heavies in both.
Yep. And then I played another game last night, and I brought 2 double-sized to that, and my opponent brought 1. And it feels like 2 double-sized core units is probably going to be the sweet spot for a lot of people.
And the nice thing is, from a thematic standpoint, I'm probably not going to take double size of shores. But I'm going to take double size of storms, and they're more prevalent in the Star Wars universe, which is always the big argument. Yeah. Shores are so much better, but they're literally in, at the time, one movie.
Yes.
So like, so going on that, there is a lot of chatter, and this is the one thing I'm worried about. Obviously, people are trying to figure out how many activations. I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know if that's
I'm a rebel player. 100 million.
I don't think 22 activations sounds good for the game by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think it's competitive.
I think people that are going to bring 22 activations to the game are going to hate the game. I'm going to be honest with you. With that many activations, you're going to get yourself bogged down, and you're going to start to get confused with what you're doing with.
I guess with the rebalance, and maybe this is coming, I'm a little bit surprised they didn't put a unit cap, count cap.
So I don't see that happening because they kind of do have an activation cap in that you can only bring 2 commanders, 2 operatives, 6 core, 3 special forces, 3 supports, 2 heavies. There's your activation cap.
Yeah.
And if people want to try and reach the point where they are running one of everything, I don't think it will be competitive. We've seen high activation
good on you.
lists.
Go for it.
Yeah, we've seen high activation lists succeed in some metas in the past, but they've fallen off because they take a lot of effort to play correctly. And with the new pass mechanism, I think people are going to be disincentivized from bringing those massive, massive activation lists.
Well, and I also think if you're bringing a massive list like that, your units are small. And a small unit is fine if you're going up against, average size units. But when you're talking those double size core units that are throwing 1,800 dice at you and you only have 5 guys, those 5 guys die now. They don't survive. So
anything else we want to talk about in those basics before we get into some rules breakdown?
No, let's hit the rules.
Cool. All right. So deployment and infiltrate is on top. And Jensen and I played a game and we did this wrong. Jensen played the second game and got it right. Luckily, I think they figured it out right before I messaged, hey, by the way, we got it wrong.
Yeah, he did. He sent me a message like, I think we did this wrong. And I went, yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I think we did too.
Yeah. So, Jensen, let's talk about deployment and infiltrate and kind of and prepared position, how that kind of interacts. And a little briefly, let's talk about how we felt in the game we played.
Yeah, so the old way of deploying all of your models onto the board before turn 1 starts is gone. The only models that start on the board now are models with the prepared positions keyword, which means you deploy in your zone, just like you would before, and you get a dodge token to start the game with.
Which I'm just going to add this in here. This was one that when we were traveling the other day and Jason and I were talking about it, and I said, and he told me about the way new deployment works. And I said, so how does that work with the FD laser canyon? And that's how it's prepared position. Because that thing doesn't move at all.
Right. It has,
it starts it starts on the game, on the table, and that's it.
Which could be a better, that can be bad. It's happening before anything else. You could, before you could choose the order,
yeah, but the flip side to that is,
did I miss
the whole idea with
position have to use?
Yes.
Yes. Because, like I said, with the laser cannon, you have to, because
I know that one does. I just didn't know if I could choose.
But when you think about that, with that thing, if I place that on the table and you decide you're not going to go that direction with everything, then it did its job.
Yeah.
Even though it sucks for me, I never get to use it, but its job was to make you not come there. So
yeah,
that works out.
And if you pointed at an objective, that just means your units can safely contest that objective unless your opponent wants to challenge your big old laser dish.
It's very army thematic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so now the change for units, we kind of mentioned this already, is when you deploy, your first action is to put the ruler touching a board edge in your deployment zone and move onto the board. And then you have your second action to do with whatever you want. People were worried that you would have to be just double moving turn 1, which basically makes it a 4-turn game. Jason and I did not find that to be the case at all.
I mean, it helped that I took a unit short at a unit that had the advantage. Garrison. I was able to give a core.
Yes, you dropped your 10-man unit in.
So, I mean, I didn't find it being bad. I mean, and honestly, if anything, it just takes maybe some of the range at a turn. We're getting that pot shot out. But other than that, it wasn't. I mean, I played the wrong card. I played Iden's 3. Getting on. That is no longer
not a turn 1 bomb anymore.
It's not a turn 1 bomb anymore. So yeah, deployment. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I think things are gonna go a little bit faster. That's
well, and I think we found that I would say all but 2 or 3 of our units moved onto the board and shot something.
Yep.
Which is what you want to see. It just gets the action going.
Yep. And you're not getting that aim turn 1 unless you have OP or you have a keyword that gives it to you, tactical, whatever. So like you're not going to get necessarily shot off the board from that.
No. Yeah, I misdeployed my commandos.
We misdeployed because we also screwed the rule up.
Commandos are a defensive unit, but regardless of that, it took you shooting them with 4 or 5 units.
It took me at least 4, maybe 5 to wipe them out.
Which is,
and it should have, and it shouldn't have happened because of how we did.
Yes. So the way that Infiltrate is different now is that prepared positions you deploy before the game starts. Everyone else moves onto the board with their first action. Infiltrate means that when you go, you drop onto the board in the deployment zone and then take 2 actions. So it gives them a lot of responsiveness to what is going on the board.
Yeah. We did it during the prepared position.
Yes. Which is part of the reason my commando side.
So it happens when the unit deploys now.
So it's when you draw the token out of the bag or you decide to go with the face-up order token of the unit, you drop onto the battlefield and then take 2 actions.
Got it.
He actually heard the 3-pip might not be that bad then. Because the problem I had is that I had to. But the problem I had is that the Death Trooper, I only thought I had the 1. If I would have had 2 range 1 moves, I could have shot more stuff. So maybe it's not, but that's a tactical thing that we can talk about. But
yeah, you also didn't bring any ISF, which have Infiltrate.
I brought 1 unit, shot him off the board. I had 1 unit.
Oh yeah,
they were on the rock.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right, because we did the Infiltrate wrong with them too. But if you had like 2 or 3,
I shot the clone commandos off. You shot the ISF off because we had them on the board already.
I remember now. Yep.
Yeah. So basically, Infiltrate now is kind of like this sneaky pop up and shoot you.
Yep.
Which is very thematic. I think it's very, very. I think it's a very, very strong keyword, and I did not like Infiltrate in the first.
No. I
got you anywhere.
No, I think that was my problem with it. A lot of times it's like, oh, I'm going to take these Pathfinders. I'm going to make them work. And they never worked because it wasn't really.
Pathfinders is who I brought last night. And oh my goodness, did they work. Good.
Good to hear. That makes me happy.
They weren't broken, but they worked.
Good.
Now I wish I would have, because I had Iden too. I would have remembered if I'd known that. Like, her turn 1 is awesome. If you now you have a reason to implement her and make her a secondary.
Yeah.
Well, good.
I haven't found if like I'm more of the gun than I am this rifle. Yes, I really.
Most people are.
Yeah. So overall, felt good.
Yes.
Deployment, infiltrate, prepared position, all felt good. I know that's going to be a worry. It felt
super
fun.
interactive.
Well, it was very, and there's going to be a lot of back and forth rather than just putting your model. Like here's the thing. Turn 0 Old Legion, you're basically putting. Turn 0 is very short, and turn 1 you are playing the game right away. And having that chess match. It's not, oh, you deploy here, you deploy. Oh, I deploy here. Oh, you put that over there.
Right.
Oh, I really want to shoot that, but maybe I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not a great Legion player by any means. So take this with a grain of salt, but my old deployment strategy was just put stuff in the deployment zone where I want them to go. I'm probably about a 400% win rate lifetime. So again, it's probably not the best strategy, but that's what I fell into because it was easier.
Yeah.
I'm just going to here they go. Here's my units. I know I want my guys to go this way. I don't care what you're doing. I'm just going to put them here and see what happens. And with this, I felt like I had a lot more agency about what my units were doing. It felt way more thematic. It felt way more interactive. It felt way more fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Good.
And I like Legion. I beat Jim. I beat.
Should we keep moving on? Let's talk about the
pass mechanic. Pass mechanic.
Super cool. So the pass mechanic. The original pass mechanic that they adopted when they kind of put out their new rule book like a year and a half ago, was that if your opponent had more remaining activations than you did, once per round, you could pass. The way it works now is at the start of the round, you count up your total remaining activations and your opponent's total remaining activations. You take the difference. And then you subtract 1 from that difference. And if there's any remaining, that player gets that number of passes.
Okay.
So let's say I have 10 acts and you have 8 acts. The difference is 2. We subtract 1. You get 1 pass because you have 8 acts. So it allows for, if you're getting manhandled early and you lose a lot of units, you have more agency to kind of wait for the correct time to move your units later in the game. It also means that in deployment, if you have fewer units, you are going to be able to pass to a point where you are not fully deployed with your opponent deploying 3 or 4 more units and just shooting you off the board with no response time.
Which
so
good.
I like the new pass mechanic.
I mean, you're a Rebel player. I'm a Rebel player. That is really helpful because, like, my last game that I played, while the score of the game came down to the very last turn, I literally had like 2 miniatures left on the table at the end of the game.
And I play,
so
I have pretty large numbers of games with all the factions. My main 2 are probably Rebels and Droids. But yeah, Rebels, I think, are going to really love the pass mechanic. All your white save lists are going to love the pass mechanic. But even your highly specialized red save lists are going to like it too. So if you're running like a low act Vader Palp list with more scalpely units, you're going to like that pass mechanic to be able to react better.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me.
Well, and again, that goes into that if somebody's bringing a 20-something or 20 activation list, the pass mechanic is such now that it's like, well, okay, but
go ahead.
You're going to go not as miserable for me as I thought it would be.
You're going to go 5 or 6 times in a row.
Yeah.
People are pretty mechanic. The other biggest rule probably is cover. I think this is probably going to be the most contentious rule of all of them.
Yeah.
Pretty easy. It is one of the only games that I know of that cover is now a random.
Not true.
Result.
Warhammer does that.
Well,
I don't play Warhammer, so I can't use that as an example.
But you play the Historics Too Fat Lardies games, and it's the same thing, where like your cover saves. Your cover saves, in light cover, in heavy cover, you're saving on like say 4, 5s, and 6s. In light cover, you're saving on like 3, 4, 5.
A lot of historicals do cover in this way where it's random of.
Yeah.
This I would say from the chatter I've seen this contentious.
I agree.
I have one game. I don't mind it. I fully. So let's talk about. I just want to touch brief on why the change happened. And long and short of it, at some point in the game, when your models get down to like, you mathematically cannot shoot anything else. It's not possible.
Yeah, you're fishing for crits. And most units are not very good at that.
Yeah, so like it just felt bad. You're not really playing the unit. So as far from an AMG standpoint, this new mechanic allows smaller units still be effective in the combat portion of the game. So right now cover is, if you have heavy cover, you roll a white dice for every successful hit, not a crit, just on a hit. So you say your opponent rolls 4 hits, you're rolling 4 white dice. If you have hard cover, or if you get paint, cancel it. If you have cover 1, you're looking for blocks.
Yep.
And then there's some other things that happen with your suppression that still counts. Suppression and light cover still stack to hard cover, so you're there.
The slight change is now you need to be suppressed to get that cover.
Yes.
So a lot of your Courage 2 units are going to need to be shot at more to get that light cover.
And Courage changed a little too in that have to be equal to get this to
be suppressed.
You have to be equal.
Yep.
So I actually found yesterday that I actually had the opportunity to take all of my suppression off, but they were kind of out in the open. I actually only took, and they were a 2 cures unit, so I only took 1 off that I could have them survive a little bit longer. So far to me, Jansen played 2 games, so I have a little bit more perspective on this. I didn't hate it. I don't think my units melted. In a sense, this is from an Empire standpoint. Granted, I'm rolling red dice. Played clones, you're rolling red. I'd really be considered after I finish my point here, how it felt with Rebels. I barely succeeded any of my white dice rolls at all. So cover didn't matter.
You and I talked about that the other day, and my thought on it was that as a Rebel player, I'm happy with that change, because whereas before I'm canceling 1 hit or 2 hits, now I have a chance, and it's not a good chance, but I have a chance that I can cancel more. And I'm rolling white dice for my saves on top of the white dice for my cover. So it's just giving me 1 more layer of protection, possibly.
Yeah.
Versus that, well, I'm only canceling 1 hit or 2 hits. And when I had, I go up against somebody that's throwing 10, 12 dice at me, only blocking 1 or 2 of those guaranteed wasn't enough that it was ever going to save me. Like, now I have a chance that I could survive. I feel like. I don't know if mathematically it works out that way. I just know anecdotally it feels that way.
Right. I mean, I say from a red save standpoint, losing the white dice rule wasn't killer for me, but I was also some red dice. If your red dice are failing, I could feel like that cover mechanic really bad. Feels awful. So in 1 game it didn't really affect, but it's gonna take a lot more play grip of how that changes. But how did you feel about your second game?
Yeah, so on the whole, I think I'm still kind of neutral about the cover change. I will say it is easier to do just, I have light cover, I cancel 1. I have heavy cover, I cancel 2.
Yeah.
Adding a roll is always going to frustrate the hyper-competitive players because it adds more randomness into a game where their goal is to eliminate randomness, right?
Yeah.
And Legion didn't have a lot of randomness with it. Had the dice, it had the cards, and that's about it.
And that's the thing that he and I had talked about off camera at one point was, personally, I love the dice randomness. Like that's again, that I'll bring it back to the 2 Fat Lardies. One of the reasons I like all of their Historics games is because randomness is built into how the game works. And so for me, the randomness makes it more flavorful. I like it that way. And I get why tournament players aren't going to like that, because like you said,
if you like randomness games,
well, and here's the thing too, is Legion has always been kind of on the simpler end of wargaming.
Yeah.
It has unit cards that have only so many keywords. They use the proprietary dice, but those proprietary dice, you only have 4 options on the defense dice. You got 1 of 2 of 3 of 4 of, and then the attack dice are 1 to 7 out of 8-sided dice. And so adding this cover roll just adds another level of granularity to add some variety to your games.
Yeah.
And cover is mathematically worse now.
Yeah.
You need to be defending against 6 dice shots in light cover for it to be mathematically the same. And that's tough. But to what you were saying, Matt, it's more fun.
Yeah.
I felt like it was so much more fun to throw 2 cover saves. I was playing clones and I had red saves on the back end, and so I was like, okay, I can survive if I biff this cover roll. And then playing Rebels, it was, roll the cover, I get 2 chances at my normal save.
Yeah.
So it felt cooler.
Yeah. And how did it feel with Rebels? Did you feel like pulling whites like melted them faster?
They're Rebels, they melt.
Regardless.
Can they stay alive long enough to score the point? Is how
what
that
helps
they're dying.
Yes. What helps now is, and we can touch on this, I know Matt is excited about this, but some of the keyword changes for units. Rebel troopers are now Agile 1. meaning anytime they move, they get a dodge, and they
which
still
is
have
better
the
than
nimble
cover.
forward.
But they needed that
They
because
needed that.
because
They were
had
terrible.
well, and not just that, they also had I didn't look, I'm sure it went away, but they used to have the thing where if they used a dodge, they got
Still
a
got
dodge.
it.
Okay,
Still
so
got nimble.
the problem was on your first turn, or you were never shooting with them.
Yeah, you
because
had
you
no
move them
ways
and
to
dodge.
efficiently get dodges. Yeah.
And now you're gonna get that dodge so you can shoot with
It
them.
feels way more thematic for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
And I think that's what, in listening to the designers talk about it, that's what they wanted. They wanted Star Wars Legion to feel more like Star Wars.
Well, and I feel like you can look at it this way. If you want a tournament style game, this is you're playing these objectives and you're scoring certain ways and all of that, play Shatterpoint. That's a tournament style. It's going to work great in tournaments. If you want a narrative driven type game that is the feel of Star Wars and you can build really cool narrative story games, Legion is going to work better for that now. I don't feel that Legion, I know people played it at tournaments. I know it was big at tournaments, and it's
huge.
still going to
It's still
continue
gonna
to be big at tournaments. I've never felt like it was a great tournament game, especially when you considered the length of time that it takes to play the game. But that's just me personally.
I think as someone who plays a lot of Legion and a lot of MCP, I think I'll push back a little bit. I think Legion still is a fine tournament game. And I think the changes, while increasing the randomness in some aspects a little bit, also gives players a lot more control in other aspects.
Okay.
That I think, and as human beings, we're going to find ways to make things competitive. People
Yeah.
will optimize and fine tune.
We don't play these games to lose.
Right, right.
Well, I mean,
right. And
but
as someone who has played some Shatterpoint, my personal opinion is that Shatterpoint is better at delivering moments of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And Legion is better at delivering the feel of Star Wars.
Well,
I think that's a good way to put it.
Really
I'm
cool
all
cinematics.
for it. I think that's exciting to me. I can say from a tournament standpoint, though, I do enjoy when you have that randomness and it works.
Yes.
Like oh my God, I just rolled all 8 saves and I shouldn't have rolled a single one, and it's that exciting. Oh wow, that was really cool, and everybody's like, that's always fun.
Yep.
So we'll see. On cover and how it plays out. Backup's a new keyword. Touch briefly on that. Yeah, you know that one a little better because you actually used it yesterday.
Yep. So backup is another kind of mechanism that we see in Games Workshop games. For Star Wars Legion specifically, it is a way to make it so that your opponent is slightly less incentivized to shoot your characters off the board, which
I did find.
Yeah, and it helps, again, bring that flavor where your heroes are going to survive longer. The way that backup works, rules-wise, is that if you have a commander or operative within half range of a core unit, that core unit can give backup. In order to give backup, they cannot be suppressed. And then by providing backup, they remove 2 hits from the attack pool, similar to the way heavy cover used to work.
Okay.
So if you really need to take out a commander and operative, shoot them. But if they've got backup, it's going to be harder.
It's going to be,
which is
found yesterday.
So they
really
just removed. So let me get. So they just removed the 2 hits. They're not absorbing it into their unit. Like
no, it's not like Guardian.
It's not Guardian. Guardian still exists in addition to all those things.
Okay. Jeez.
But yeah, so you want to
stick a big
it's
Guardian.
A way to keep your main characters.
Your hero. That guy's never gonna die.
Right. It's a great way. So your lightsaber wielders are not typically gonna stick around with a core, so it doesn't really affect them all that much. What it does is it helps the support commanders who are kind of struggling to see effective use.
Yeah.
It allow you to walk up with your army and maintain that bubble of support,
which is what I should have done with Veer.
Which is what you should have done with Veers. You won anyway.
Because I didn't know he could survive more. So if I would have just kept Veers up, plus I had I don't remember what card I had on him, a defensive buff to my units too. I didn't even understand how bad.
Right.
It's pretty cool. I think it's good because we want to keep our named units on the board and playing. It doesn't feel good when Anakin gets shot off one turn.
Yeah. It gives buffs to those kind of gunslingy commanders too, like your Hans and your Rexes.
Yeah.
Who just melted before. People stopped bringing those characters because they needed to get up close to be effective. But as a one model unit, and Han only had white saves, they're easy to kill. And so now they are less easy to kill, which means they are more likely to be brought.
Good deal.
Which is a good thing. And this is where all this is going. Bringing the movement. What small movement were
the
big
only
movement change?
Yeah, the only really notable thing. It's small in practice.
In practice,
it is large in application.
Mm-hmm.
So now, similar to AMG's other movement template games, when you move, you put the notched end on your character's base, and you end touching the ruler. What this means is for Star Wars Legion with a double notched ruler, you can place your model at the end of kind of this rounded notch. You can put them right here.
Yep.
Which gives you just a couple more millimeters of movement, which means that when before a speed 2 move in Legion was slightly less than range 1, the speed 2 move now can be exactly range 1.
Well, and you can stop anywhere along.
You can stop anywhere along, which makes
before you had to finagle your maneuver tool so that your guy ended in the notch. So that's helpful.
Or ended along the center. So now you can just touch anywhere. It makes corner movement easier. It smooths things out a little bit while also kind of allowing for that maybe not so fun gamification of getting that extra little millimeter here and there.
Do you think going forward that we're going to see a movement tool that's released that doesn't have the double notch?
Yes,
I mean, I think that's because that's what they have on their.
It'll look like an MC. I think it'll be an MCP.
Yep.
Yeah,
eventually.
And I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Does it change the old math of like, hey, I'm this far away, this many inches away, so I know that a speed 2 move and a speed 2 move will get. Yeah, it changes. Do I care?
Vehicles are still notched though, right?
Well, I mean, it's just gonna make it so that like your charge units, like my tauntauns,
they're better, slightly
better,
only slightly, and
nothing's changed on the.
I'll take only slightly.
Nothing's changed on the vehicles. I assume
vehicles still have to go notch to notch.
Because dewbacks are notched too, right?
Yeah,
dewbacks are notched. Scout bikes are notched. So all the notch stuff is still
the same.
Yeah. Token sharing.
There's a lot more units with Exemplar now.
A lot more units with Exemplar, which I think is actually a good thing.
Yes, and ironically enough, the Exemplar faction lost their Exemplar. Sorry, Padme.
Yes, they did.
But they needed a tweak. A lot of other units gained it, and most of them are range 2 now.
Yeah,
as opposed to range 1.
And I'm going to digress here. They also have to remember the command range on deployment is everywhere. There's no range.
Correct. If you're off the board, you are in range and line of sight of everything else off the board and everything on the board.
Oh, okay, cool.
So pretty simple. A lot of more units have exemplars, so you can share tokens, which I was able to do yesterday. Nice, felt good.
I do you want to just speed through these last keywords, Jason?
Yep. Yeah.
Withdraw.
Withdraw is now only one action. You make a short move out, and then you get one more action. It can't be an attack. It can't be a standby, and you can't move into another melee. So a slight nerf to melee units. We'll see how this actually affects things in the long run, because a lot of like the hero melee units got other buffs in other ways. So on the surface, I don't love this change as someone who likes to play those melee units, but it's really not that big. So we'll see. Yep. We'll see if it dramatically changes things in the future.
AI got a change.
AI now is basically turned off if you are within range 3 of a commander, which feels a lot more thematic to what the droids are kind of going for. It means if you got a droid going rogue, they're still subject to their AI, but if they're within range of their commander, they can still get their orders the way they were supposed to.
Probably a good thing.
It's probably a good thing. I don't know if droids needed a buff in that way, but most of
them are playing EXT right now anyway.
And EX doesn't really take advantage of that dramatically anyway, because they have ways to give orders out. It doesn't dramatically change droids, because for the most part they had a lot of ways to fix order control. But it's a nice change. It's a thematic change.
Yeah,
I'll take it. I like thematic changes.
What about so fire support?
Fire support's gone in the way it used to be. So fire support used to be if you had a face-up order token and range to a defender, when another unit was attacking, you can add your dice.
Okay.
That keyword in general just now means when you get an order, you get a standby. The fire support as we know it is gone, except for a couple command cards.
Rex still has it.
Rex still has it on his 1-pip. Boba still gives out extra dice on his one of his old man Boba cards. But the days of clones and mortars throwing 20 dice pools are gone. Instead, you just bring a double core unit and throw 20 dice pools that way.
Yep. Scout got a little bit of a change.
Yep. So Scout is similar to Infiltrate, got a buff. Scout now allows you to do a free Scout speed X move and then do your 2 actions. So similar to Infiltrate, where you drop in and get your 2, Scout gives you that free move onto the board and then get your 2.
You get 2 actions. Nice.
So it's slightly worse than Infiltrate, but still very, very good.
I think the next 2, can we combine those?
Yep.
The ion and vehicle damage?
Yep. So Ion got a slight change. Ion now no longer just removes an action from vehicles. It is a rally roll, essentially, where you roll a white die, looking for paint. If you get it, you get your action. In a similar vein, the vehicle damage roll is gone. Once you hit your resilience on your vehicles, you are damaged. They've just got that one. It removes weapons disrupted, and then the movement one, the name I'm blanking on. But vehicle damage felt the most balanced anyway. The weapons disrupted was a really big feels bad, and the movement one would lose you games like that.
Yeah.
So it's another way to make vehicles viable again. Which I like.
Yep.
Which is cool.
Yep.
All right. So
everybody likes to see those toys.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, you buy this stuff. I mean, I can tell you, and this is going to kind of go to the next thing we're going to talk about. It's you buy so many things, you can't play them because it's not viable. Because we all get to that competitive, unless you're playing a narrative, which is why I like narrative styles, because you're forced to take other things and it's not a big deal and it's kind of fun and you could adjust. So that's going to lead us like what we're excited about with the changes as far as units and what we're looking forward to playing. And really, I can say this in a general, I'm looking forward to just playing things that I've never played before. I'm joking, like I have a Scout Trooper list that I am going to play today that I can't play. I have to borrow units because the 3 Scout Trooper boxes I built the sniper team only, and I did not build the rest of the models because I'm not going to play them. Nobody.
Before you get too far, the reason you need to do that now is one more rule change that we forgot to mention is the detachment.
Yeah. That's a big one.
Yep. Yeah. So the detachment keyword used to be if you were a detachment, you deploy speed 1 away from your parent unit. Now it is, and it also had the condition of you cannot be included in the army if your parent unit was not included first. So we saw that pretty much exclusively on Shores and their mortar, and then Rebel Veterans and their Mark II.
Yeah.
Now all of the strike teams for the special forces are detachments. So in order to bring the strike team, you have to bring a full unit.
Have to. I have to build my Scout Troopers if I want a Scout.
I'm okay with that because I would always bring my Rebel Commandos anyway.
Well, and with the changes to Scout, those full units have a lot more options in deployment than other units. So they're not just kind of a strictly worse version of strike teams anymore.
Yeah.
And they also allow you to bring the strike teams, which is another reason to bring them.
Yep.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so that's really, I mean, you can go into like Jansen had fleet troopers yesterday. First time in how long?
A long time. I brought a 10-man fleet unit.
And how were they? Were they fun?
Oh my god, it was fun. I did not play them the way I was supposed to. What I did is I deployed them dead last. I ran out onto the board and then played my 1-pip with Cassian so I could go first. ran into the middle of the open and dropped 18 white dice, 2 red dice into a snowtrooper unit.
Yes!
And it was the coolest thing I've ever done. And I killed 2 models.
That's great.
But that's 2 models that you wouldn't have killed otherwise.
Exactly, because those fleets would have been dead before they got there.
Jansen, what are you excited about?
I'm excited to mess around with the new changes to all the saber wielders. So the big change that they did for all the force units is they dropped all of their prices and hiked force push to a 40-point upgrade, which is, in my opinion, a very good balance change, because force push is probably the most broken single mechanism in the game. Is I get to move your unit. And so making it have that 40-point tax was a good change. And the counterbalance for that is they brought all force users down about 20 or 30 points.
Yeah.
In addition, most of them got keyword reworks. And some weapon profile reworks. So like Luke's blaster is better, his lightsaber is better. Anakin is a monster now. He doesn't need his command cards to get all those keywords. And I think my favorite change, again, I'm going to keep coming back to it, a thematic change for me is a good change. All of the different named lightsaber forms that we had that were just versions of Deflect, I'll do something unique now. So
that's cool.
Anakin's Gemso works similar to the way it did before, where you're going to do wounds back in melee, but then he has a separate Deflect keyword. Obi-Wan's Sorcery Mastery allows him to be more supportive to his other units at range, and then he also has the Deflect keyword. So it allows those saber wielders to be unique in their play styles and approaches even more than they already were. And with those extra 200 points, you can just add one to your list now.
That's cool.
Yep.
I'm just looking forward to my, like I said before, I can maybe make the Pathfinders work. I've been trying since they came out and I suck at them. So I'm excited for that.
Future releases. We're going to go over this real quick. So I got up here. I think this slide is I got the Scout slide up because I go for it. Obviously, all of the sculpts have been redone. They're going from soft plastic to hard plastic, and they're just better. I mean, if anything, Atomic Mass Games does, they know how to sculpt a model. Shatterpoint is I mean, Jansen was looking at my Kanan Jarrus the other day, and he's like, oh, he's so good. I'm like, I know. They're still heroic scale, but not as fatty, I guess is like I want to say. They're just better.
Yeah, they kept a similar amount of detail where you can kind of show off the Star Wars flair without being kind of like Games Workshop drowned in details.
Yeah.
I mean, the sculpts are all dynamic; they're all unique.
Yeah,
and that's what we want to see.
Yep. Well, and the new ones coming out. One of the things that I think was a complaint as a Rebel player before was the lack of variations of aliens. It
was all humans.
All humans.
We had one Duros and everything else was human.
Yep. And now you've got Twi'leks.
So if you go to, I got the Rebel troopers. You're right. I didn't even notice that. Look, there's all kinds of different.
You got what
aliens.
1, 2, 3, 4 Twi'leks in there. You've got 2
Duros. Yeah, you got Twi'lek heads, Duros heads, human heads, Mon Cala heads.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, as someone who loves to hobby with this Star Wars stuff, especially being able to differentiate my units by species instead of color of their uniform, excites me a lot. Like, this is not my slightly darker green unit. This is my Mon Cala unit.
Yeah, well,
awesome.
and looking at the Rebel sleeper cell again, you have I don't know the race names, but you have the one that Greedo was. There's one of those guys in there, and then Yum or whatever. There's one of his race in there too. So like, I like that you're getting that variation now. It's really cool to me.
And a lot of them are resculpts. Choose to buy, you can choose not to buy. Already have this stuff. Every game I think goes through a resculpt phase at some. And they're taking ownership of it. Have the Heroes of Republic or Rebellion pack, which has got 2 Lukes in it, Leia and Han.
Yep.
And
so it's
just
the biggest complaint about some of the old soft plastic is that the detailing, especially of the faces, was laughable because they were limited. It was 6 years ago, before kind of this renaissance of 3D printing and 3D modeling, and so they didn't look great. And this new Han and new Leia, especially, the faces, they look like humans again.
Yes.
And then they gave
Shatterpoint does it even better. Their face sculpts are just really good. Probably the best ever.
Well, they're also slightly bigger, so it's a little easier to get that detail.
Yeah. Well, and then we got new sculpts for Operative Luke and new sculpt for Chewbacca, and then Luke has a new outfit, which is cool. It just gives you more options.
Yep. Yeah. That's an iconic outfit.
Iconic.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so that is
Legion.
That's Legion. Legion 1 point.
So if you want to be technical, when AMG put out their rulebook, it was 2.0, like a year and a half ago. So this is technically, according to the rules book, Legion 2.6.
Okay, so there we go.
Call it whatever you want. It's
more changes are coming.
You
know that's
2 2/3.
It's a progressive thing. They were very much said that this is not the end. There's going to be more balances, more unit cards. I think more unit cards are going to get updated. The mission packs are not done. There'll be more. I think you'll see more of some of the old style in some of those where bombing cards. Yeah. Overall, I'm excited. I'm playing the game again. That's what matters to me personally. I think it matters to a lot, and I think it matters to stores. Especially who maybe their local meta was kind of dying off. It's just something a little refresher. I think they've put a lot of thought. I think they've really considered people's opinions, because there's a lot of things that we talked about that are in the game now, and I applaud them. I have no form, but I'm also not a major tournament player. I wasn't winning tournaments. I can't speak from that perspective.
Yeah. I am a tournament player, but I wasn't winning them either. Not in Legion.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is the Legion portion. And then we're going to finish this off and jump into the game that all three of us play probably the most between all, if you collective, MCP. Our as Jansen calls it, it's favorite skirmish game. By far. And then Legion is his favorite Star Wars game. So Shatterpoint's kind of down there, but he still plays it. MCP, really, probably the biggest was the roadmap stuff. From competitive standpoint, we've got a card rotation that happened. A really, really big one. From a competitive standpoint, Jansen and I can certainly touch base on that. Sure, I'm gonna pop this up here. So here we have it's up. Pretty much most every competitive card on this list. I had an X-Force list that I had to take 5 cards out. So advanced
I think it's
R&D,
healthy for the game because it forces people to re-break the meta. The staples, the biggest staples are still accessible. Patch Up, Embrace, I think, are cards that
Indomitable still there.
Indomitable, those 3 cards especially, that you cannot play MCP in its current format without those 3 cards being available to people, and so them not being rotated, I think, was the right choice. But then some of the other really big ones we can talk about, like Advanced R&D kind of shuts down the turn 1 Wakanda shenanigans. Deception is kind of a major nerf to Mystique, but she got kind of a replacement. People are playing Disarm a ton. Eyes of the Prize was like a top 3 card in terms of usage.
Big bill play.
Marked for Death is huge for Spider players.
Yeah, Spider Foe's got a buff. or no, sorry, Web Warriors got a buff.
Marked for Death is the only reason my Amazing Spider-Man died at Adepticon. Otherwise, I played 7 games with him and he lived every time. Mission Objective is huge. no matter the cost, was kind of a niche play that people would use. Smash is just kind of a staple. Age of Ultron was broken with the new Ultron, so them removing that made sense.
Yep.
And then I think probably the biggest single card change is exceptional healing. Lester, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So most probably know, but basically exceptional is if you have 3 power, you spend 3 power, and it basically reduces the damage to which sucks for X-Men X-Force players, but I also think it really hurts the like Splash Lizards. It really hurts like Lizard, especially healing one character. That's a big one to me.
It feels to me like Lizard was kind of the catalyst for this, because Lizard was one of those kind of showed up as like 3rd, 4th most brought characters in tournaments this year, despite Spider Foes not really being represented. Right. So it also, with the prevalence of X-Men over the last couple months, feels like kind of a response to that being another really good tactics card in their arsenal of already really good tactics cards.
Well, and it's and now X-Men also has Xavier's Dream, so they had 2 major
They had
heals.
2 ways to negate all damage.
Do you think that was something that was anticipatory for the fact that you have some X-Men characters coming out as well that were like gonna kind of draw players to X-Men? So it's hey, let's fix this now before they come out because it's going to be super broken.
So one thing that really caught my eye is in some of the roadmap spoilers, we saw another Logan, kind of the experimental Logan, who is a 3 threat with healing factor 3.
Yep.
And I think that is probably another reason why they had to take a good look at exceptional healing, because if you, the reason Lizard is so splashable is because he's a 3 threat with good board control, damage reduction, and healing factor. So he's got all those kind of really good splashable traits. And I think Logan, this new Logan, had kind of those makings as well. And I think this might be kind of a response to some of the prevalence and the fact that the X-Men had 2 basically I take no damage cards. And I think it's also anticipatory for like Maverick's got healing factor, Weapon X has healing factor, Werewolf by Night has healing factor. So a lot of these new models coming out all have healing factor as well. And so I think they were kind of getting ahead of themselves or preparing for the future as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good.
And there's a replacement card. It's not near as good. I don't know. See it played because it's gonna be kind of hard because the only way you can play it is if it dazed. Basically, just heals 2. How much it costs?
I think we'll still see it, if only because it's a way for you to use healing factor effectively reactively.
Yeah, I mean most cards that have some sort of heal are gonna be.
Yeah.
Age of Ultron was so good. Basically, you just can't kill them.
Yeah. Well, and I said this before too, that I'm more of the casual player between us, and so for me, rotating these cards out is never a bad thing, because it just forces people to, hey, let's change the game, let's play something else. Let's not. I get tired of showing up and hey, I see the same list that I've seen 100 times because that's the list that is always winning. Like. Play something else.
Right. Yeah, bring Embrace, patch up, one of the 5 we talked about, and then 2 affiliated cards, and that's my tactics cards every time.
Yeah,
and that's what it kind of was getting to, and so I like throwing a wrench in, force people to figure it out.
Even if it sucks for tournament players and sucks for us casual players. I mean, like let's be honest. Some of these cards going away is sucks. You know. But it's that mindset of, okay, but you're really forcing us to do something different because the game's getting stagnant otherwise, which is not a bad thing.
Right.
And who's to say that in however long you don't go, okay, yep, we're putting them back in there. It's not working. You know, they're just rotated out. They're not gone forever.
Right.
So.
Yeah, there's a handful of cards that are just outright banned.
Yeah.
But the rest of them are rotated, which means that if the game sees a design space where they feel comfortable bringing them back, they'll bring them back.
Yeah. And banned cards, usually when they're banned, there's a reason they're banned, and it's okay.
Yep.
Like, they're broken.
Yep.
It'll be fun. I mean, it's MCP is very meta, as a definite meta. There's no doubt about it. It's hard to play the off meta stuff. Although the new TTS league, a lot of top 4 in TTS league right now is there's a Hellfire Club player, there's a Convocation player, and there's an X-Force player. The guy that played for not Adept but Las Vegas Open, he's top 4 with still.
Wow,
just a really good X-Force.
Sure.
And I can't remember the 4th faction, but Convocation's the top 4, and this is a worldwide league. So
Convocations, Hellfire and X-Force are not a surprise to me, but the Convocation is.
Yeah,
that requires kind of some different approaches to the game. So good on that guy or girl.
Yeah, yep, absolutely.
Should we talk about because we could talk for hours on what these rotated cards are going to mean for strategies, but I don't think that's neither here nor there. Should we talk about some of the minis that are coming out?
We're gonna do the
please.
minis. So we're gonna touch briefly on this. So up right now, I'm going through the have from it. We knew this was spoiled in Atomic Mass Games. We have during Adepticon, their seminar, we have Weapon X Maverick. We knew the minis would come up. Now we have the cards. Weapon X is a 3-threat. Maverick's a 3-threat. Biggest thing on Weapon X is he's got to heal back to 3. He's got a lot of the same aspects. Pretty much probably going to be Weapon X. Logan will be. Maverick probably will be too, won't Weapon X? Probably. Was a little shocked that maybe they didn't get another leadership out of this, but maybe that's coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest issue with Weapon X right now is their leadership is good, not great, and their selection of models is very limited.
Yeah.
And they just lost their best tactics card.
Yeah, but we have a local guy, Jason Clark. He's a good Weapon X player, and he's fine. But heck, he splashed Namor and wiped the floor. Namor's not broken. Okay. Oh, he's so good. Sunspot and Warlock are next up. We do have a new affiliation coming, Mutants,
which is awesome.
Awesome for those. This will hit the spot, especially for the new X-Men 97 stuff coming out, because the original show Warlock had a good and Sunspot both were prevalent in the series. I'm not as familiar from a comic book standpoint, but Warlock's 3-threat, Sunspot's 4-threat. Warlock's got a lot of stuff on his card.
Yeah, he does.
We're not gonna go into a deep dive. Anything particular that stands out for these guys? I haven't really looked.
No, yeah, the X realm of comics is probably where I'm least knowledgeable in terms of Marvel comics.
Yep.
A lot of the X-Men stuff was on my list, but I had to drop Marvel Unlimited to pay for other stuff. So they're high on the list when I can pay for it again.
Yeah. This is probably the one I'm most excited about. Angel and Archangel, very iconic X-Men, especially with help me. I'm brain farting.
Apocalypse,
thank you. Especially with Apocalypse coming out.
Do we have the entire first class now with Angel? Were they first class at all? I don't remember.
First class was Archangel, Psylocke. Who else was in Storm? Was in the
Iceman
movie.
Was in it. We've got Iceman.
Yep. So we're filling out nicely.
Yeah.
I'm not an
basic,
person,
pretty basic 3 left. He got Captain Sam Wilson Airlift. I think is the same thing. The hostile takeover is a little bit kind of interesting. Also got healing factors. The sculpts look awesome. I'm most excited to really go Archangel.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's coming to double or is that coming into.
I think it was
the same box. I'm a little shocked that they don't have that. I thought there was a second model.
All right. First class was Cyclops, Marvel Girl, which is Jean Grey, Beast, Iceman, Angel, and Professor X. So yeah, with Angel, we've got finally the whole first class.
Yep. This also we have some monsters coming. I'm not a Monsters Marvel person at all, but that sure looks cool. Werewolf by Knife.
That's kind of where I'm at. I don't know much about him, but the vampire Dracula dude looks cool.
So we've got Werewolf by Night. The sculpt is really cool looking.
Mm-hmm.
If
the
you're
card
a Midnight
is really
Suns
cool
player,
looking.
yeah, it's just a good sculpt. It'll be interesting. I'm pretty sure this is Midnight Suns, right? Most stuff.
I believe Dracula's going to get a Monsters affiliation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. And I think they think we're going to have a tactics card for that.
I believe Werewolf by Night will be Midnight Suns, but I don't know that the others will be.
Yeah.
Dracula and I don't know what the guy next
monster.
to him. Yes.
Hmm? It's Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, that's what we just.
It is Frankenstein's. Okay, I was right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. 5 threat. Probably have a tactics card leadership. I have jaded somehow with Dracula in some sort.
Yeah, in the comics, he's got like a cabal of assassins, so it's probably gonna be something along those lines.
He's got this really cool shape-shifting keyword.
Oh, it's so cool.
So when the character begins a move action during its activation, it may use a superpower. If it does, choose one of the following effects to resolve before moving. It can be a bat, it can get flight, it can be a wolf, go to a long move, and you can mist, which is dropping all object tokens and all special conditions, and heal up to 2 for 1 power.
It's awesome.
Holy flexibility, fun. Like the more stuff that's like that on a card that's the stuff I think is cool, where you get options.
Yeah, we're seeing that. We saw that a lot with Shang-Chi and Namor, where you've got ways to diversify based on your situation.
Which is probably why they feel so good.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. I think it's cool. I always bring it back to, I just worry that it's going to make some of the original characters that are out there not playable, because it's like, oh, why would I take that when I could take that for the same?
I think that's the biggest issue with Crisis Protocol right now is the roster is getting to the point where we have reached critical mass and are still going.
Yeah.
And it is near impossible for the designers to keep up with all the old models and keep them relevant.
Yeah.
Which is, I'll just throw this in there. If you are getting bored of competitive MCP, or you want to play some of these old models that are not quite as flashy, play Mojo Ball. It is awesome.
Mojo Ball.
The new Mojo Ball kit that came out a couple weeks ago.
I've heard it's good.
We had such a hate from our local meta. A lot of, why are we playing that? This is just what whoever doing from other game thing. And we played last week. I played for the first time, and I brought 18 points. It wasn't jank, but it's stuff I haven't played forever. Mm-hmm. And it was fun. I didn't have to worry, and everybody's playing the same game. Now, can you break that game too? Absolutely. Like, if I was playing competitive, I know exactly what but I don't have to. It gave us a good reason to dust off some old models. And that was fun. I enjoyed it. It's a good change of pace game.
Yes.
Cool. If you haven't tried it. It's fun.
So moving on,
we have the terrain pack, which I'm here or there. It's cool I don't really do much with the ones. It's cool looking. I probably will, if I can't help it, not buy another terrain pack ever again. That's just me personally.
Is that gonna be another one of those?
No, it is.
Terrain pack
it is not a.
You can't.
It is not a. What do they call it? When you have the characters.
Non-interactive.
No. I mean, but like, you remember how like the Quinjet came out, and it's like, well, this is non-interactive. You can't throw it. You can't do. It's cool looking. But
that'll be non-interactive, guaranteed.
Yep. Or
we got Abomination.
I could also see it being size 5, like the weapon.
Oh, see, that's what I was saying. Make it size 5.
Just I think there's ways to fix the Quinjet. That's my personal hot take. Is if you play the Quinjet as interactive, but the profile is the ground instead of the jet itself, it's a super playable piece of terrain. But people, I agree. They don't believe me.
Nope, I agree with you.
I'd agree with you.
All right, so
Abomination, Wrecking Crew.
Oh, so cool.
I think it's cool.
We talked about it earlier, not on stream. Kind of feels like Abomination should be on a large base, but I see why he's not. So but it's still a really cool sculpt.
Oh, it's a great sculpt. They're getting so good at these, like the larger than life size heroes. The dynamicism in their posing is awesome.
Yeah,
looks like it'd be fun to paint.
Yes.
And then we have Mephisto. Had some tactics cards.
So cool.
Foiled. Well, sculpts. We have Elsa and Man Thing. That's not a jaunt for me. I wasn't really into that. Back then.
I'm gonna have to do something with Mephisto and magic, like a diorama or something. Because
Matt's excited for Nova and Yondu. Classic, obviously Yondu.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
And I can't believe Brent missed this, but
oh
the
my
Inhuman
God,
Royal
so
Court. we have an Inhumans player, and this got spoiled, and he didn't even as of Monday, he didn't even know it existed. Evidently, not everybody sits on Discords and stuff.
We added him in our group too, and he still didn't see it.
He didn't see it. But man, Black Bolt's freaking sculpt is
it's amazing.
It's so good. So good.
What are we thinking? Another leader? New leader option? Or are we gonna
I don't know.
He should be. I mean, am I wrong? Like, isn't that
I think they need another leadership. They need another one.
We have 2 Peter Parkers. Or no, we don't. Only one of them's got a leadership.
Only one's got a leadership. We've got 3 Peter Parkers, but got them at
I guess we have 2 Captain Americas that both have a leadership for Avengers.
Thor has 2 leaderships, doesn't he?
I don't think the new Thor has.
No, the new Thor doesn't.
Right? Loki's got one, and
technically Red Skull does, because Red Skull has 2.
His are different affiliations, though.
Correct.
Because he's Cabal from Red Skull 1, Hydra for Red Skull 2, and I think it goes back to Cabal for Red Skull 3. So yeah, we could see another leader in Black Bolt.
War of Kings, we're getting more of the X-Men stuff.
And they said there are new missions.
Yep. There's and a Crisis card pack, which we don't know what those are yet. But I've heard there's a 20.
I heard 23 or 24.
Yeah, it's gonna get up there. So
which
big boys are coming out.
Bringing Dormammu or those guys, that's coming.
So it's about time we got some new Crisis missions and then some things that got spoiled: Avalanche, Exodus, and later Mastermind. And then Echo, Tigra, and Ronin. Ronin will be cool.
Yeah.
That's a good alter ego. Hawkeye. And then we got Spider-Verse, which does not surprise me with the prevalence of Spider-Verse films. This is Spider-Man 29.
Yep.
I believe. It does not surprise me because those films are absolutely popular. They're probably the best Marvel films that I've seen.
Incredible. Yeah.
They are incredible.
I would love to see, because it is a character pack. I'd be really excited to see a 4-pack. My kind of top of the list, I'd really like to see Spider-Man Noir.
Spider-Ham! Come on, Spider-Ham!
Spider-Ham would be fun. But the Spider-Man Noir comic run is like a 6-comic miniseries, was really, really cool. But the other one I'd really want to see is Superior Spider-Man, which is Doc Ock in Spider-Man's body. And that would kind of give us another little alter ego twist.
Yep. Absolutely.
So that's the pack I'm probably most excited about from the pre-visualization models.
Okay. And that's going to bring us to the biggie.
The biggie, Phoenix. Phoenix is iconic. It's X-Men. It's she's going to be like a 10th thread. I don't know. She's like the most powerful mutant ever. So
yeah, Universal's tried to adapt her storyline like 6 times in the past 20 years in the movies.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
something like that. But I will say, like, it comes out a little bit in X-Men 97, not much, but I know it's coming.
You look at the Phoenix model and you think, wow, and then you go to the next one that's the Phoenix Unleashed model. It's like
the Phoenix Unleashed.
It's like that meme of
so good. And she's gonna have grunts of some kind, obviously, some sort of grunts or constructs. I don't know what they'll call them. But good God, that is so cool.
It's so cool.
So cool.
I don't like X-Men, like I never have, but that I'm getting that because I'm gonna paint that. I don't care.
We're gonna see. Yeah, the year this comes out, we're gonna see a ton of those in the Worthy.
Yeah,
that is going to be the model
absolutely.
of the year for the Worthy when that comes
absolutely
out.
It will be. If somebody could figure out how to do her killing Xavier, like that'd be kind
of spoilers, Jason.
I'm not doing it. I'm not that good.
Yeah.
All right, and so that's it for MCP. Not much changes. More stuff's coming out. We still play the game. I'm on a little bit of a hiatus, but I'll get back to it eventually. Play Mojo Ball. We'll change the pace, and you want to dust off some old models.
Yeah.
Last but not least, Shatterpoint. Matt and I are really into the game right now. Jansen enjoys the game, but it's not his favorite. I've been really enjoying it lately.
I like the game. The game's playable and it's fun. I like the game more for the models right now and getting to paint those, and they are just a joy to put together and paint. They're gorgeous.
More I play the game, more I'm enjoying it. Helps when you win, and I've been winning, so that always helps. You're enjoying the games. But
clearly I don't play games to win.
We got little Crosshair, Evil Crosshair, Empire Crosshair, Squad Leader that's coming out. And then a couple of units that go with him. I'm excited about are the new Mandos coming out. Paz Vizsla. These are characters from the Korean series. The sculpts just they're doing great jobs with the sculpts. Even if you buy them just to paint, you get a lot of fun. These guys are going to go really well with Mando.
Yeah.
Who's a solid character. This is the way you have some Mandalorians, but we're getting into like we have Boba, which we joked earlier, has the exact same pose as this Legion pose, but it's a good pose, so we're okay with it.
Yep.
More mercenaries,
I'm
more
a big
scoundrels.
fan of removing flight stands, and the jetpack flame is such a better way to do it.
I agree. I wish they would. I'm glad they did that with the Dark Troopers, although the Dark Troopers in Legion, they made the pin way too damn small.
Yep.
Breaks off easy. That part was bad. But
no, I guess you can't bring Dark Troopers anymore. Darn.
Because they're not OP at all. We're finally getting Veers, iconic character. He does some cool stuff, and we're getting a Stormtrooper Lieutenant.
That guy looks awesome.
And one thing to point out with the Boba Fett, they're now coming out as character packs. They're not actually squad packs.
It's an awesome decision.
So we're finally outside of the squad packs, and now we're just getting characters to cycle in with your stuff, which is probably a natural progression. Is a good thing.
Well, and the fact that you can bring it, because Shatterpoint, you build squads based on era and not faction. It means finally the Rebels can hire Boba Fett.
Yes.
Yeah.
For the first time in these Star Wars games, I can have Han Solo working with Boba Fett.
Which in the lore of stuff, he may have at some point in time. I mean, a lot of time in there that we don't know about.
There's a lot of
we got a Lando. What we have here, Lando's coming out. Lando can actually take a Galactic Empire or a Rebel tag.
Oh, it's so cool.
At the end of the setup phase, so he can do both, which is very thematic. Again, Star Wars thematic to me hits harder than the MCP. There's more flavor to it, and I'm more of a Star Wars fan than probably a Marvel fan. Love my Marvel, but as far as like, this is what I found is like MCP, like we're getting to the realm of characters I care about very much.
Yeah.
Star Wars, I care about all of them.
Well, and you and I, outside of all of this, have talked about that multiple times. How for me, Star Wars way more my jam than Marvel. I played MCP because that's what you guys play. But when Star Wars stuff like this happens, I'm like, yes, give me that. I must have it.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can say a lot of things about Atomic Mass games, but one thing you cannot fault them on is finding the flavor in all their minis games.
Correct.
Oh yeah.
They are nailing it.
I am not. I'm choosing not to buy the New Hope pack, but the titles for every ability are so good. Like I'm just like, God dang it, you're gonna make me buy it.
Yeah.
Requesting your surrender, more clones, more Jedi, which is always good.
Kid Fisto's a fan favorite, and his former Padawan, Lichar.
Yep. Really like that era. That's for you. Wisdom of the Council. We've got more like this is all Jedi. So
super cool.
And
they said on
all
stream
the lightsabers
that the Padawan on the right has multiple head options.
Yes, that
you can go with the Rhodian like they have. You can go human, and I think they said there was another head option in there, but
I believe there was 3. If I remember. Again, more robust aliens, more diverse.
Yeah.
This is the one Matt and I are probably the most because All the Way, which is Rogue
One,
which is one of my favorite new movies. It's fantastic. I rewatch it all the time.
Yeah.
Just solid. K2SO is fun. And of course, if you get Rogue One, you got to get the evils. So we have.
I'm all for it too. Like, got
more Death Troopers that'll, I assume, will synergize with the Death Troop escort guy. That Moff Gideon pack.
Yep. So they said that Krennic is a primary. We've got a secondary Death Trooper officer, similar to the one with Gideon, and then you can run the 2-man Death Trooper support. So you can run 4 Death Troopers in one list right now, which is really cool.
Yep. Lots of options. This is the one. This one is I'm super excited about. This is Rogue One. I think this one looks. We have Jin. I always forget the names of the other guys, but
you got Bodhi Rook on the left.
Bodhi's on the left. Jin.
Baze Malbus is
thank you.
Other guy, and then Chirrut Imwe.
Yeah.
Chirrut, yep. The Baze sculpt is just tight.
Yeah, but you gotta love Chirrut.
And
He's
we
like
have
one of my favorite characters.
more clones, more Delta Squad coming, and then CIS finally gets some more love. We haven't had anything from them for a while. We have the Terror from Below, which is Aqua.
It's such a cool
shark guy.
Shark's my favorite animal. So this little shark man I'm buying that box. And the Aqua droids are huge.
Yes, they are huge. Yeah,
oh my goodness.
It's just good stuff. It's just all good stuff.
That's cool stuff.
Whether or not, I mean, everybody's got their flavor game, right? Right now, that's my flavor of game. There's still things frustrating about it to me. Sometimes there is more randomness to it.
It's a little too long.
It does sometimes suck that you only activate one character in a game. That is a feel bad thing, I think, of the game as well. But you can't deny the models. You can't deny
the models are cool.
The model and the moments.
And the moments. There's
cinematic
moments.
I think I've won,
and their balance.
I've even won a game. I think I've just won a few of the
struggles,
and I'm still like, oh, this game's so cool.
Oh yeah, it's so like when Obi-Wan rocks up, jumps up to a gantry. Hello there, swings 11 dice, spikes the roll, and Darth Vader whiffs. Oh, it's so cool, so cinematic.
Well, and just like the actions that happen are very, very character.
Everything's
they've done a really good.
They've
done a really good of like this is what this character's like in. We're gonna give them ability very much like. Legion does a good job of it. This one step further. As far as I'm concerned. All right, that's it. We've done it. We did a thing.
I guess the big recap would be, AMG in general, I think has got some really good stuff happening this year. So I'm excited to see where we go with this stuff.
Yep. They very clearly have people on their team who are excited about these games and excited about the IPs, and it shows.
Yeah, that's just it. You can tell that they have people that care about the IP that they're doing.
And I'm going to give them props for like it's risky. It's a huge risk.
Yep.
Yeah,
but I also like it's also like we own it now. It's now our game. We got to make. I don't see any problem with that. That's their prerogative.
No.
They bought the game. However that worked from a financial standpoint. Whatever.
Yep.
So I think they have the passion when you're at their seminars. They have the passion. You stream. And in the end, if you don't like something, you don't have to play. And I'm very adaptable. A lot of good stuff. We can't buy it all. We wish we could, but Yeah. Thanks for this is fun. This is good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
Maybe in like a month or so after we played some Legion games, we'll come back with a hey, how we feel the game is.
Mm-hmm. We've played more than 2 games.
Yeah,
can actually talk about it.
Maybe we can get some of the Legion on the camera in studio.
Yeah, we might. We might do some battle reports like that once I.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Yeah, I'd be down to do some battle reports for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. So, we got to get you in here for some of these games because
when Matt's room is a little cleaner.
Well, right. You can't see it because we're in the process of moving still, but off to one of the sides, I can't tell when I'm looking at it backwards. Is the actual studio? Yeah,
sure.
It'd be that side over there, and that whole area is actually clean, but you can't see it because it's around the corner. But
right. Well, that's how my apartment is. If I can't see it, it's clean.
No, yeah, but that part actually is clean.
It is true. That's how that works.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining. This is a good time. Play those games. Give us your feedback on the comments.
Give Legion a real shot.
Give Legion a real shot. Play some Mojo Ball. You buy the stuff. Throw some dice. Just go and have fun. Support your local game stores. That's where it all starts. And hang out with people and enjoy the hobbies while they're still the height. Good space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hobby standpoint. Can't play it all, but we sure try.
Sure do try.
All right. Take it easy, and we will see you next time.